Hi, I'm Sam Clement, President and CEO of the Michigan Association of Broadcasters and proud Michigan State Spartan alum. 11 months ago, my alma mater experienced a tragedy that impacted the entire state and Spartans around the world when a gunman shot and killed 3 students and injured 5 others. The pain will never go away, and the 3 students, Arielle Anderson, Alexandria Verner, and Brian Fraser, should never be forgotten. But how the Spartan family rallied together in support of each other afterwards was a reminder of why it's such a special community. At the forefront of the healing process were students, specifically budding broadcast students who help keep their peers safe, informed, and with a platform to express their anger, hurt, and support. Today on air in Michigan, a conversation with 2 students who worked at Impact 89 FM, the student-run radio station at Michigan State University. Delaney Rogers is the station manager, and Jake Rhodes is the digital media director. Both were deeply instrumental in the station's coverage of the shooting and telling the stories of MSU coming together to heal. Delaney and Jake represent the incredible young talent in the industry and are a shining example of the impact of local broadcasting. Delaney Rogers, station manager, and Jake Rhodes, digital media director of Impact 89, the student radio station at Michigan State University. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
So obviously this has been a trying year at Michigan State, February being the prime example of that. But Impact 89 has always had a real presence and has been a part of everything at Michigan State. I was a student there. I worked at the station there. It's got a rich tradition. And so when the news broke in February about the shooting, what was the initial reaction from you individually and then from the station itself? And Delaney, we'll start with you.
I think for me individually, it was just definitely immediately fear, making sure that everybody at the station is okay, the people I was with, checking in, making sure they're okay. So the first thing you do is check locations, call everyone, making sure everybody is safe in a secure location and mentally doing okay. So it was a lot of that throughout the night. And then the station itself, it was just wanting to make sure everybody was okay. Our general manager, Jeremy, he was off campus and the only non-student, so he was the one sending the updates, which we appreciated because it would have been a lot to try and do as a student to send those updates. So after that, I think the station itself was just needing time to adjust, to accommodate to the situation and to take time for themselves.
Jake, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Delaney covered a lot of the station-wide stuff really well. And honestly, personally, it was pretty similar sentiment. Just a general fear and that weight in the air. And it was just a very interesting, the reaching out to people that you might not have talked to in years, right. But reaching out to those people and checking in on them and acting as if no time had passed since you last talked to them. Just that general desire to want to make sure that everyone you knew that could be in any sort of proximity was safe.
How many students and student staff were in the station, the radio station, when you guys found out?
I believe there were only 3 students inside of the station at the time.
Yep.
So there were 2 just working on things, and there was one of our hosts hosting I think it was their first specialty show, the premiere of their specialty show. So they were kind of hunkered down in our control room, and they didn't have any service too. So it was hard to get into contact with them. So we had to text them hey, these are the updates. We'll send them as we can, but they didn't have much service, so they didn't know what was going on. Did
they go live in any capacity to give updates, or was they were just trying to get information for themselves?
For themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Where were you guys at the time?
I was at Snyder Phillips, which is one of the dining halls on campus, with some friends from the radio station. Actually, we had just wrapped up. We've got street team. It's our marketing team. Wrapped up a street team meeting. And there's a few of us that pretty regularly after those meetings will end up going somewhere, grabbing some food, usually that place being the Union. And for whatever reason that night, I had even brought up hey, let's go grab food at the Union tonight. And my friend Adam, he was actually, what about going to, it's Sni-Fi, is how everyone calls it, but what about going to Sni-Fi? And so we were luckily ended up going there to get dinner that night. And we were there when we started to hear all of the news. And I live in an apartment complex across the street from the Union, and started to see messages in there prior to any alerts went out. So we were actually pretty aware of that when we were there at Sni-Fi, that something was going on. We weren't really sure yet at that point.
Delaney, what about you?
I was at my coworker's house. A couple of women from the station and we every Monday night watch The Bachelor. So my class got out early. It's supposed to get out at 8. I was supposed to go to the steps of the union to re-record a stand-up for class because I'm a journalism major, but I decided against it. I was like, I'm just going to go with my friends early, see what happens. So there were about 9 or 10 of us there, and similarly to Jake, one of the girls was in a group chat and started getting messages like, hey, there's shots being fired supposedly. What do we do? So then immediately started making calls, making sure the women who were coming to the house got there as quick as they could. And then we kind of just like locked the doors and sat there for a bit until we got information. But it was with about 10 other women from the station. The house right off campus, but you could see all the police cars and the lights from the window.
So after the next day, the dust has settled, things have calmed down, information's coming in. What was the station's response? What did you guys see as your role of getting news out after the fact?
It was a lot of messages about resources and what we could do for people. So the next morning around 9 or 10 a.m., we hopped on a call with our e-board to discuss how to move forward, how do we want to cover this, as well as how do we want staff to respond. So immediately we said, you don't need to come into shifts. You can take the time for yourself, do what you need to do. If there's anything we can give you, any support, we can give you accommodations. We wanted people to feel like they could heal and process in their own time and not feel required or forced to do any work because no one's equipped to handle these kinds of situations. So we didn't want or expect anyone to do work during that time. So we were sending messages of like, here are the resources on campus for mental health, for people who need, transportation back home, even food, just safe spaces to come and hang out. So we were doing a lot of that and opening our doors for people to just simply come and hang out if they needed a community. We also gave people the option if they wanted to come in to be on air and do their DJ shift if it offered a sense of normalcy. Yep. So it was a lot of just situational approaches of do what feels best for you, but we're here for you and you're not required to show up if you don't want to, is our approach.
And what about for the station leadership? I mean, you guys are saying we're offering this to our staff in case they need it, but you guys are students there. You're dealing with these same things. What were the resources that were available for you?
I think being there for one another was the biggest thing. So checking in. Jeremy, again, our general manager, was great with checking in to make sure we were okay and voiced a lot of people feel like they can't handle, being present for their departments and teams. They don't have to be because that's a lot for the student to show up for other students too who are also grieving in the same way they are. So it was just a lot, again, of people had a mutual understanding that they might need time and even their leaders might need time too, but everyone stepped up really well to be there for one another, especially our department heads and volunteer team leads being like, hey, we're here for each other. And they really were selfless in that time to make sure that they were there for people, and they didn't need to be, but they were. To think it was just a need for them to step up, but they didn't have to if they didn't want to.
Jake, Delaney mentioned that some students found it therapeutic to be at the station. Talk about that. What is it about that station that is therapy for people?
Yeah, this was actually something that for me personally, I was one of those people. I mean, Delaney and I spent hours at that station that following week, just that sense of community there. And I think for us, it's a lot of people, it's kind of a second home on campus. It's oftentimes people, especially that live off campus or live further away from their classes or just want somewhere to come hang out. It's a great place to just stop in and have that community during the day, kind of in between classes, in between different things that you're going to. And for me, it was just like my immediate reaction of like, I can't be in my apartment right now, especially with the fact that my apartment was right across from the union and I needed somewhere to go. And for me, it was just the most natural decision, really, was going to Impact. And having that immediate sense of community too, it was something that within the station brought us all a lot closer too. I think that it was people that had never talked before, that just happened to be like, you know what, I know that the Impact is available for me and I know that it is a safe space. And people that, I had never even talked to before either, just coming down to the station, hanging out, just to be with each other and have people to be around.
What are you most proud of in the days after that, from a station standpoint? It sounds like there was a rallying around and people kind of maybe made relationships that they didn't have before, but one, from that standpoint, just the personal, and then two, just what was done on air.
I think I'm very proud of the support and empathy that everybody had for one another. Like Jake was saying, it was just this immediate safe space for people to come to. So people you might have not known too well coming in, it was almost a relief to see them. Even if you don't know them well, you're just like, you're safe, you're okay, you're here, I can physically see you, which just brought an insane amount of comfort. So the empathy and support we all had for one another, I was very proud of. It just was so reflective of how deep Impact is and how much love we have for one another. So that was something very comforting to see and something I'm very proud of as well to just be a part of in general. And then the station's response to coverage, we did a lot of written coverage. Jake, me, our previous sports director, Brendan Shabath, and our previous news director, Zach Slelik, we went out often, even though I think 2 days after that Wednesday, we went out and just covered stuff at the Capitol. We talked with students from a student perspective, to see how they were feeling, and was very proud of how we approached that because we were very empathetic. We just wanted to know, how are we feeling? We're there with you. We're grieving with you. We want to be there and put your voice and elevate that. So I was very proud of how we approached that because it was very comforting and very, I think, cautious approach to reporting.
What do you think it meant for the students that you gave voice to in that moment? Going to the Capitol steps and talk to them, and then to have their voice being able to be heard on Impact 89. What do you think it meant for them?
Yeah, I think that it was honestly just a general sense of kind of validation almost. I feel like there were a lot of people that were dealing with other like national and statewide media outlets coming in from more of a perspective of wanting to tell the story of the shooting, where we really tried to see it through a perspective and see it through a lens of telling the story of the students, how they experienced that, ways that they were coping through that, resources that they knew were available, that they had, things that they found solace in, and really just kind of emphasizing that and being able to show people's stories and how it really impacted them. And just necessarily from showing the gravity of the situation, and just show that, these are real people with real stories, not just these headlines that are kind of coming out nationwide, statewide, that were more focused on the investigative side of things, where we were really just trying to focus on the telling students stories that wanted their stories to be heard, giving them a space to do that.
Jake, I actually want to touch on that because, of course, you have the media outlets that come in and they cover it for a number of weeks, and then other stories happen and people go away. You guys are literally on campus.
Yeah.
It's a part of your entire college experience. So to still be in that building, which I'm sure there are memories of that day, but probably better memories, I would assume, of working there. What is it like to still be working on campus, and what has it been like in this new semester of Impact 89?
Boy, I think it's one of those things that doesn't necessarily ever go away. It's something that's you're always gonna think of it. You're gonna be reminded of it. So if there's like a loud noise, you're immediately gonna think of what is that noise. You want to make sure everybody's okay, and kind of looking around the station and making sure that, trying to think of a way to word it, it's kind of constantly in the back of your mind of what would happen and how would you keep people safe if it were to happen. So I think it's interesting to be back on campus and still be in those spaces because there's an awareness that if something were to happen, you now know how to handle it. Yeah. But at the same time, it's comforting to be with students who were in that with you. So it feels like we're moving forward, not forgetting about it, but allowing ourselves to heal and to take up space in those spaces and kind of reclaim it and make it our own and be unapologetic about it. But at the same time, it's still going to be there. So I think everyone's healing and processing in their own way, but sure. I think there's a new strength this semester with all of us being in it together and moving forward in our own way.
What do you think is Impact's role on campus? Not related to the shooting, but just why is it important that we have a station like Impact 89?
Ooh. I think it goes so deep. I think it's important for students to be talking to other students and give people a platform from their peers, So if we're on campus doing an event of some sort, playing music, if we're going out and interviewing people, we're providing people music, that's all coming from their own community, which I think is really important and shows that they can do it too. So obviously Impact has a bunch of people who aren't in media related majors, but it's a space for them to come and still try out new things or do things that they're passionate about. A lot of times people come in and realize that they want to do that for their career and they kind of switch majors a little bit or start enhancing those sorts of skills. So I think it's really important to have an organization like Impact on campus at MSU because it shows people that there are a bunch of different avenues that they could be a part of and that there are students there who are willing to listen, to give them entertainment, to just show up and to be present for them. So there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I've heard of Impact. I see us at a bunch of events. They're like, I've heard of you. I listen to you all the time. And then we're like, show up, come, you could be a part of this. And they're like, oh my gosh, really? So it's stuff like that where it's really cool to give students an opportunity to know that they can do it right now, and it's on their own campus, which is awesome.
Jake, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of going off of that, like the creative opportunity there, as cheesy as it is, it's like Impact's slogan is more than music. And I think that really goes a long way with our presence on campus because, and you know, Delaney touched on a little bit about the people coming in with non-media related majors and kind of finding a home in that and really enjoying it. I came in my sophomore year on our street team doing marketing things, and I'm a computer science major. So never in my life did I ever think that this was something that I would be doing. And now, you know, doing digital media at the radio station, it is a completely different world from what I'm doing in my classes, but I love it. So to have an organization on campus that has such a wide range of opportunities is something that I think is really unique. You know, ranging from the journalism side of things with, you know, our music journalism and our news and sports teams, but also the music side of things and that culture that comes with having college radio. I mean, there's such a distinct culture around college radio that I think is just something that is ever present, and I think students are aware of that, and to be able to have those opportunities and have that culture on campus is really great.
Coming from a major that isn't, you know, media related, what has this experience, you know, what kind of perspective has it given you about the role of broadcast media? Has it changed it at all?
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, for me, I always had such a disconnected relationship with media. It was something that, you know, I watched the news and never really thought more about it other than just what I was seeing surface level. But now actually working within that and seeing the different side of things and from a broadcasting standpoint, just the work that goes into it, and especially at the Impact, just the different things with the moving parts, but it's definitely developed a newfound respect that I have for broadcasting in general and also journalism. As I mean, like with Delaney and many other people that I know at the radio station are in the journalism field. But to see that and come in from a, like I said, very disconnected perspective, and then really now like fully throw myself headfirst into kind of the broadcasting and more like digital journalism side of things. It's definitely been a really eye-opening experience and something that I've loved. It was, like I said, it's a great opportunity to have on campus, and I encourage every single person that I see to join. I think when we're at like our recruiting events on campus and people are like talking to people and they're like, oh, what's your major? And someone says like something that has nothing to do with journalism or broadcasting, I'm immediately like, no, like that is all the more reason to do it. Or like I'll talk to someone and they're like, oh, I'm a computer science major. And I was like, I am too. Like you can still do this.
Well, to that point, what kind of skills do you think you've developed, you know, in this role that'll help you in whatever field you go into?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, I mean, within my field, definitely like the different aspects of the digital side of things and digital marketing in general, I think will play well into really any field. And that goes for a lot of different things. But the amount of skills that I've picked up coming from a outside perspective of being computer science and the different things where, I mean, doing video interviews, I conducted and did video interviews for FemFest, which was an on-campus event that we did at the beginning of the year. And doing the video and audio, I mean, Delaney helped with a lot of those, but there were some that I went out and I did the questions and the video and the audio, and the editing for those was something that you never could have told me that would be something I ended up doing. And photography has been my big thing that I've really dove into, especially getting into it following the shooting. That was what really launched me back into photography, and that's been something that growing within that opportunity, and it's honestly Impact has a tendency to do this, but it's opened doors for me that I didn't even have on my horizon.
Delaney, you're a journalism major, so how do you think you've evolved during your time at Impact?
So much. Coming from a program in high school where my only experience was truly just doing newscast stuff and some like video packages, coming to a radio station, I had no experience whatsoever. I was a little bit, I think, intimidated because I was like, oh, I can be a DJ, I could do this, but it has enhanced so many skills and has given me a better understanding of what the field will look like following graduation. So it's cool to see how interconnected everything is too, with like print, radio, broadcasting, but how separate they are too, and can appreciate that. So I was news director for a year and a half before coming into my role as station manager. So learning how even like a smaller little, newsroom in a sense operates, and figuring out stories, there's the audio component, editing, AP, that is strengthened immensely. And then from the journalism standpoint of, I guess, station manager, it's helped me understand a lot of management sides of things, a lot of like conflict resolution. Trying to think, sometimes it's hard to just put into words, because sometimes it's just a feeling of, you can tell that you've grown and strengthened in a lot of different areas, and it's a feeling of being prepared for when graduation happens and being excited about it. But I think the main thing is, trying to think, sorry, I've learned to be very adaptable, I think, and learned to dive into situations a lot easier and more comfortable than I would have prior within this role. And then especially within journalism, because now I feel comfortable go out and just talk to anyone, and walk up to somebody on the street, be like, hey, can I talk to you really quick? Or the marketing standpoint, like Jake was saying, talking to a bunch of different people, gotten a lot better at. So if I'm on campus, I'm like, oh, come join Impact, which kind of helps for later on in the field of journalism, because I know I'm going to have to go and kind of like cold call people, or just walk up to random strangers in situations I wouldn't find myself in usually. So it's overall just increased my confidence and ability to feel comfortable with journalism. So it's made me more excited to go into this field, and
That's awesome.
eager to get into this field.
Well, we obviously love to hear that. I'll ask you one final question, and Jake, I'll start with you. Obviously, shooting is something that everyone will remember. Any Spartan, no matter if you went to school years ago, if you're in school now, if you're a future Spartan, it's a part of who we are moving forward. It doesn't define us, but it's certainly a part of our history. What do you want people to remember about what Impact did during that time, and what it means to be a part of that Impact family?
Yeah, I mean, especially talking on the how we reacted and what we did following the shooting as a whole. I really think that we've talked about it a lot, but the telling of the student stories, and really focusing on that, and the fact that Impact was a place to provide people with a platform that wanted a platform and wanted to tell their story, but also providing a place for a sense of community. That week following, we had an event where the door was open. Anyone come in, hang out, whether you've been a volunteer with us for years or you just heard of Impact yesterday, come hang out. We'll be a safe space, a community for you. And I think just that general community that really has always existed within the Impact, but really came together following the shooting. I think that was something that I will always remember personally, and I hope is something that we are remembered for in our reaction and how we handled things following, and really being able to look through the lens of telling student stories specifically.
And you're the station manager, so what about you?
I'd say very similar, just our presence. We want it to be a safe place and a community for people to find their people. Often I'll tell people that the way I found my community and friend group was through Impact. Coming to college is a very intimidating and scary thing to do sometimes, and you worry about how you're going to make friends, who are you going to surround yourself with. And I found very quickly when coming to Michigan State that Impact was going to be my core group of people and community. Even if I don't know people super well, you come in and you immediately feel welcomed by everybody, even if you've only talked to them once. So my biggest hope for what Impact is known for is just our presence, and hoping that it's a warm atmosphere for people to come into and meet some very cool people. Again, there's people of all different backgrounds, majors, experiences, and we can all come together and feel like it's like this unified connection with one another. So my biggest thing is I want people to know that there's a space for them, no matter what their experience is, and that they're going to be welcomed in. I always tell people, like, you walk into the station, if you don't know anyone, you're probably going to be bombarded with like 4 different people, like asking your name, if you need any help, if you need a tour of the station. You're going to get a whole rundown and blurb of what Impact does, and make sure that you feel supported within that too. So we really want people to feel like they matter, and that their presence is as important as their absence. If they're not there, we're going to notice. We want them to be there, and their presence also is going to be, elevated. We want people there. So just want people to know that Impact is there for them always, even if people come once a month and then they leave and then they come back, they're going to be remembered and they're going to be valued within that.
Well, again, as an Impact alum, as an MSU alum, I hope you guys understand what you guys have achieved here. You were asked to do a lot in probably the toughest time you could have. you guys handled it with incredible grace and talent. So I hope you guys are very proud. We're proud of you as alum, and just wanted to say thank you for that. Delaney Rogers, who is the station manager, and Jake Rhodes, the digital media director at Impact 89. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.